This morning we're going to continue our series, How to Archive Data, and the remaining part of this series is going to be, of course, short like it's been, and it's going to be private. And today we're going to kind of give the most important overview and where most people, when they're asked this question in an interview, fail. And so I've been in multiple interviews where we've asked people, so explain the first steps of archiving data. And it is amazing to me, even individuals with masters and PhDs in computer science start stumbling. Because there is a it's not super complicated, number one, but it's very obvious who knows how to solve this problem, the doers, versus someone who just has learned those definitions. So the very first step when we talk about archiving data is that we are needing to have a destination for our data to be archived. Okay? So the first step is there needs to be a structure that exists to take the source's data. So there's a destination and there's a source. Okay? All other answers are in terms of the first steps, are really irrelevant. What's the destination? What's the source? The only other correct answer that might be allowed is we want to begin with the end in mind, so we want to be able to drop both the source and the destination in an automatic fashion. And that kind of gets into just how to build in general. That's kind of, in my opinion, something that everyone should know. But as a case in point, I worked with a client who had over 4,000 or 5,000 stored procedures, and their naming convention was so bad. In order, even though they were only using 70 of those stored procedures, I had to end up speaking to, I think, 12 or 13 different departments, which consumed over 80 hours to figure out how many of those 4,000 to 5,000 procedures needed to be removed and how few of them needed to be kept. Whereas if we just had a naming convention which had the department name, the application that was using it, we could have automatically produced reports based on that, then provided those reports to each department. The department could have looked and said, yes, we use this, no, we don't use these, and then we could have automatically dropped the stored procedures. So the result is that instead of 80 hours, it could have been 2 to 3 hours. So yes, beginning with the end in mind is very, very, very important. But still, even if we start there, we say we begin with the end in mind, we think about how to automatically drop both the destination and the source, still, we're looking at there needs to be a destination, there needs to be a source. The very next thing is that the destination, the next step, so first step, destination and source, which the source, as we know, is kind of given. The next step is that the destination must match the source's data set that we want to archive. So using a stock example, if we just want to archive the stock date and the stock price, then the destination needs to have the stock date and the stock price. We may not want to archive the 200 simple moving average. We may not want to archive the standard deviation. That's fine. But it does need to match the data set that we are archiving. And these first two, the destination, source, mandatory, and the match, number two, these two, amazingly, people miss quite a lot in interviews. They just kind of freeze and they don't know. And again, this is not something that should be that complicated. Finally, number three, so we have the destination source. We have the matching structure. We do not want to archive manually. And again, this should be self-explanatory, but it's something that if you don't use this word in an interview, it's going to be held against you. And this is true with anything involving technology, and that is, if possible to automate, you automate. Now, I have never seen an archiving situation that could not be automated. Every one of them could be automated. But let's say hypothetically that you actually are in a situation where no, this has to be manual. Then you want to automate it as much as possible where there's very little active work that has to be done. But that will be held against you if you're in an interview and you don't mention automation. People, that's just a keyword, especially for someone who may not even work in the tech field. A lot of times, if you're interviewed by, like, let's say an HR person, they're just looking for keywords. That's all they're looking for, because they don't really understand technology unless they tell you, yeah, I used to work as a technology worker. A lot of them don't quite understand. So definitely make sure to mention automation. And again, I've never seen an archiving situation that you couldn't to automate. So the idea is your destination, your source, must be built in a way, and that goes back to the first and the second video, must be built in a way in which it can be automated. Just kind of like when we talked about automatically deleting things, if we want to go through and drop everything, it must be built in a way in which we can automatically do that. We do not want to be in an environment where we have 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 stored procedures, and we have to go through and automatically remove those, and because of the way that they're named, now we have all this work to find out who built what and if this is called or whatnot. So the three takeaways today, the big three, are that there needs to be a destination and a source. The source should be a given. The destination must match the source's data set. And then, of course, we want to automate this process. And generally speaking, the archiving will occur at the end of the business day in non-production hours.